Yes, now bless now, people. Don't forget to rest now. This actually ended up being a fucking hell. Look at the Barnet mush. Look at the Barnet. This ended up being a longer listen through than I initially assumed it would have been. I had plenty to talk about. We were yapping. Yes, we were yapping. But we enjoyed our experience. I had a recommendation from my friend Joel on the Patreon, the metalcore connoisseur. And he's not blown his cover as the biggest fan of pop punk yet, as he's continued to recommend metalcore. And this was metalcore. Shai Hulud. I'm glad this is the last time I have to say this name, because I don't know if I've been mispronouncing it throughout the entire listen. Shai Hulud. Hearts once nourished with hope and compassion. 1997 this was put out, the debut. Although there was credits in the YouTube video of it being 2006, Revelation Records. There's no clear indication of this being a remaster, but I assume it would be a remaster. Which is quite fascinating, really, like the idea of a remaster of a band that sounds like this being put out on Revelation 9 years later. I'm surprised they would still have the original stems and recording material. Maybe this was how the original record sounded. And if this was how the original record sounded, then flipping hats off to you. You know, it's a good sound. It's a good quality recording. Especially for the time and just the general sound. Now, let me start by saying metalcore. I am not very, very, very well versed on metalcore. I have my own perception and assumptions of the genre. 1997 for this particular sound, I think is incredibly ahead of its time. Incredibly ahead of its time. This is a 2000 sound. Or what was to become the 2000s in 1997. That's not 1999, that's 97. When did Master Killer come out? 95? I know that was a different cup of tea, but this is like a sound of a new generation to me in relation to the metalcore that was out in the 90s. Congress, Liar, H8000 or whatever you would call it. You know what I mean? That gang. This is what was to become my upbringing in the dyed hair fringe, spiky belt generation. Shout out to you lot. We experienced ridicule. We experienced ridicule from the punks, from the metalheads, from the hardcore kids, from the moshers, from everyone. But we were the trendsetters. Honestly, we were the trendsetters. We brought up deathcore. We brought up the metalcore as we know it now. We brought up the brutality, the guttural, guggeral toilet vocals, and so on and so forth. We influenced metal more than the extreme metal that came prior to us. The gore grinds and the slam and all this, that, and the first. We, as the innocent teenage raccoon-haired emo kids, we really pushed the movement, and we faced a lot of problem from the adjacent subcultures. And I say that because I was part of a community that involved all the subcultures, and that's for another video. You know, the skins and the punks and the metalheads. I knew a guy called Ryan Maiden. Fucking hell, how metal is that? He was a good friend of mine. He was a good guy. Now, this album, 9 tracks, substantial amount of material, bold production. It's a clear, crisp metal production. Audacious, loud, abrasive. The sound is okay. I'd give the production a 5 out of 10. Could be different. I think it's a very standard production. It's a standard good production. Now, the actual music itself is interesting. I think this is a band finding its feet. I think this is a band that has got development to be done. I've not heard where this band goes from here, but I know they've got a extensive career, which I've got to give props to. I love creatives. A lot of bands give up on their dreams, find out that they're not musicians, or, even though they have been called to be a drummer, they understand, I'm not making any money, I have to become a real estate agent like my mother wanted me to be. I have to go into property, I have to go into law, I have to be a solicitor because that's where the money is and that's where my family wants me. This band has been going for a minute, and I give respect and my full honor to artists who are artists and go through the friction that it takes to be an artist. So respect to them, but I can hear in this project a sound that isn't going to appeal to enough people for them to continue steamrolling through in the trajectory they need to go to make a substantial living. This is a band that has put their first record out and are living and learning, and I say that because it's hard to follow. This is a project that is hard to follow. The timings and the production of the songs, like not in a sound engineering sense, but in a songwriting sense, it's hard to follow. It is a hard to follow record. It's a little more laid back in the complexity and the technicality of the actual guitar work and the drumming and so forth, but the timings are what gives it this edge over its competition, and it's the fantastic duality of it not being so understandable that it markets incredibly, but being, not understandable to the degree where it's different from the bands that are, copying and pasting and writing by numbers and just doing what they have to do to become a band that succeeds. The riffs are okay. The vocals are consistent. If you like the vocals, you will love the record. If you like the vocals, you'll love the record because it is A to B, start to finish, consistent vocal performance. The drumming is okay. The producer doesn't really give too many props to the drummer. This isn't a drummer's record. This band is fantastic because... Not this band. This record is fantastic because it skirts the line of not being a melodic record, but not being a heavy, mosh-adjacent record. It exists within the middle ground, which is something you don't find, and I think that might be in relation to the fact it was put out in 97. And because it was put out in 97, I could consider this the root of what was the 2000s. I'm blown away that this was 1997. This is fantastic. And I'm going to actually give props and points to this record in my rating because of that. I think this... Let me be honest. I'm going to give you a rating. I think this is basic in regards to it doesn't push a boundary I'm aware of. That it doesn't exist in a space that they excel in. But I think this is groundbreaking in the fact that it was put out in the year it was put out in. Plain and simple. 6.5 out of 10 is what I'm giving it. I'm going to give a shout out to my man Joel, and I'll put respect on you lot. Peace and love. Bye-bye.